Alright, the next thing I gotta do is cut out some pieces of cardboard, some strips, because I'm going to attach them to the top of the cardboard circle. That way we can get the curve of the top of the cap of the mushroom, and I'll show you how that's done. Okay. Alright, so we got the piece of cardboard, and I'm just going to cut out some strips. I don't really care what size they are, just some strips. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bending them so that they'll have a curve to them. So just take them in your hands and start bending. Do this with all of them. And of course this is corrugated cardboard, so it makes a pretty good shape there. Okay, so do that with all of them. Alright, so there's all our rounded strips. Okay, now I'm going to take the circle off and get out my duct tape and attach these little strips to the cardboard, and I think, okay. Should have probably had some longer strips, but anyway, doesn't matter. Alright, so you can attach these together, kind of have one. See how far you want your cap to be. What I do is the end part of the strip kind of sits on top of the circle, and then I bend the tape down underneath. Okay. Then you can decide how far up you want your cap. You can tape that together. And yeah, I use a lot of duct tape in everything I do. Okay. Now that we've got that done, you could put more strips if you wanted to, so that you have more coming this way. I know I'm going to put mesh tape over it, so it's really not that important. So I've got some Walmart bags, and I'm going to start stuffing this cap with all these Walmart bags. Start with the mesh tape, so I have something to put those Walmart bags up to. So just take some tape. stick it around the bottom, and I didn't cut that one long enough, so need to cut longer strips. Okay. So you can see how I did that just along the bottom from one cardboard strip to another. The reason I'm putting on the mesh tape is I want to have something to not only stop the bags from falling out, but also to hold the joint compound when I get to that step. So we'll just put some around the bottom here. One across the top here. And if you notice, I don't measure too much of anything. And of course I overlap, because once you start putting that joint compound on, you don't want to have a spot that doesn't have the mesh tape. You want it to get into that mesh tape and secure that joint compound. I've tried to make things without the mesh tape. My husband was the one who came up with this idea. I'm so glad he did, because it makes a big difference. Okay, I'm just going over the edges here. I probably don't need to use as much as I do, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Try to get it as rounded as you possibly can. Now once you get the joint compound on there, you are going to be sanding down afterwards, so that'll take care of some of the imperfections. Okay, I think it's looking pretty good now. that's covered. Now, you gotta cover this whole stem with all of the mesh tape as well. But first, I'm gonna sit this inside this can. Gives it a better base to set it into something like this. Because if you look at the bottom of pop bottles, they're not flat. So they're not going to sit flat, and if you leave it like this, it's going to fall right over. If a wind catches that cap, it'll take it. So I'm setting it in there, and now I'm going to go around the whole thing with mesh tape. At this point, you can take that cap and stick it back on by just pushing it in. And you can see how it's already starting to look like a mushroom. Let's Alright. See how that looks like a mushroom now? Let's see. Oh, we're going. Okay, let me turn this around a little bit. And I do have an angle to them. You can make more of an angle by turning it down on one area, pushing it down. I like it to be tipped at least a little bit. Okay. I think we're going to stop at this point and come back to it later.